While the act of mansplaining itself is quite demeaning and needs to be changed from the source, aka men, there's still some things that you can do about it. Mansplaining. Heard of it, right? Now, the term was coined when an American writer and activist, Rebecca Solnit, published an essay titled Men Explain Things to Me. Now, that's when the conversation began about how men take it upon themselves to explain very basic concepts to women in a super condescending way. Now, mansplaining may be a new concept, however, the idea of it has been around for eras. It comes with the prejudice that women, even though they might be the masters in that field, always know lesser than men. For example, someone who's just a home cook, aka a man, is teaching everything about cooking ingredients to a woman chef. Can you believe it? Or let me give you a better example. A businessman is teaching something about financial nuances to a woman investor. That's what I'm talking about. While the act of mansplaining itself is quite demeaning and needs to be changed from the source, aka men, there's still some things that you can do about it when it's happening to you in real life. Here are a couple of points you can keep in mind to deal with this. Point number 1, interrupt to continue. Now, when you know that you're being mansplained, put your hand up with your palm facing outward in a very, very professional way because you are a classy lady, and just say, "May I please continue? I'd love to hear what you have to say. However, I'm not done yet. So it'd be great if you could note your points down and we can discuss them later." This way, you're making sure of two things. One, you're telling them you're totally not okay being interrupted. And two, when asked to note things down, they might also realize that there's really nothing that they can point out because you were completely badass and absolutely perfect in your delivery. However, after all of this is done, make sure to ask them their points and if they have anything to add to your dialogue. Point number 2, wrap up your knowledge about the entire topic in 2 to 3 crisp points, which ends up establishing that you know better than them. I always begin with something like, "Oh yes, I totally agree with you on this. However, XYZ are my opinions on it." And that's when you end up concluding the whole thing in 2 to 3 lines and end up establishing your hierarchy in the conversation because obviously you're a badass and you know much more than them and they end up realizing it. Mansplaining is usually a result of men wanting to be the bigger voice in the room. However, when you initially say that yes, you agree with them, it might calm them down for a minute while you make your rest of the points, and after that they might end up realizing that wait, you are actually the better and more valid voice in the room. Win-win. Point number 3, ignore them. Establish your confidence with your words and just keep talking. In a professional setting, let's say a meeting or a presentation, when you're presenting something, there might be a lot of men who might want to chip in and add their points. You don't need to pay any attention to them, unless they're of course the heads of the meeting and want to ask you valid questions. Just keep being assertive and continue your presentation. Point number 4, don't let a man explain you anything about women's rights or bodies, aka your rights and your body. You know, it's downright funny when men try to explain pregnancy, abortion rights, PMS, all of that to you, because you realize that they also don't know that much about it. And it's always better to have a conversation and stop them right there by letting them know that they might not have all the facts required without bringing them down, because trust me, all of them could do with a little bit of education around it. Like, for example, when men tell you that, "Oh, period cramps must not be that bad," and you fact check them and tell them that there are studies that truly show that period cramps can sometimes be as painful as heart attacks. There you go. You've educated them a little bit. Point number 5, leave the conversation gracefully. It's not necessary for you to hear everyone out. If you feel like it's getting really offensive and you yourself feel offended, make sure to let them know that you're not comfortable with this conversation and, my darling, just exit. It is not mandatory for you to hear everyone out. And if you feel like the mansplaining is getting offensive or demeaning, here are 3 ways in which you can gracefully exit the conversation. Number 1, If it's a conversation amongst professionals, all you can do is get up and just say, "Excuse me, I have a few things to finish." And that's your cue to leave. Point number 2. If this conversation is social, that is not professional at all, what you can do is let people know that this conversation is making you feel uncomfortable and then leave. Third, when you're in a casual setting among friends or people you know, you can actually stop the person making the comments and make sure to let them know that what they're saying might be offensive to a lot of people and women in general. Now, 2 things might happen. This person might sit down and actually listen to you. If you feel like you can do that, go ahead and have a conversation about beliefs, opinions, everything. But if you feel like you can't explain your point to them, it's always graceful to leave. While it's easier said than done, mansplaining is another one of those things that women have to deal with and take care of. All of your beloved idols like Priyanka Chopra, Michelle Obama have dealt with it and done so gracefully. Till then, take charge. We've got your back. Foxtale salutes you. Coined by activist Rebecca Solnit when she published